Daniel Fried is a former Assistant Secretary of State for Europe under Presidents George W. Bush and Barack Obama. He helped lead the West's response to Moscow's aggression against Ukraine in 2014. And we are happy to welcome him to the show via Skype from Washington. Great to have you on the show.
Thanks for having me. Wish circumstances were better, though.
Yes, I agree. Let me first get to this point with Germany. Germany is sort of the one country here that seems to be fracturing the NATO alliance here. I mean, even the Polish Prime Minister in a Facebook post said he's concerned about Germany's reaction in the, quote, face of a threat from Russia, because Germany is withholding consent to supply arms to Estonia. How much does a less unified force, with Germany not kind of jumping on the bandwagon here, how much does that take away the teeth to deter Putin from invading Ukraine?
Well, certainly the German government has been divided internally over its response to Putin's aggression, but it's moving in the right direction. We've seen the German government strengthen its statements warning Putin to back off and warning that it will support strong sanctions if the Russians increase their aggression against Ukraine. There have been differences within Germany, especially about the Nord Stream 2 gas pipeline. But I don't think that when push comes to shove, the Germans are going to opt out and not take a responsible position. I think this is hard for everyone. The Biden administration didn't want this crisis, but it has moved once it became convinced of its seriousness. I think the Germans have been slow to recognize that their hopes for Vladimir Putin being reasonable are not realistic, but I think they're moving in the right direction. Certainly their foreign ministry is.
Now, as you know, in the past 24 hours, we've had this announcement about putting thousands of U.S. troops on high alert. Do you think this lessens the chances of a diplomatic solution? Is this really escalating things?
Not at all. I think that announcement strengthens the chance of a diplomatic solution because it shows Putin that the West and the United States are not as weak as he supposed. He's counting on our internal divisions and all the problems we know we have to paralyze us. That's emboldening him. If we show Putin that the West is united, that we take this threat to European security seriously, it means that a diplomatic solution is actually more possible, more likely. It's not diplomacy or resistance. It's both. And I think the Biden administration has done a pretty good job combining those two tracks.
So do you ultimately think that Putin is taking the U.S. moves seriously, and not just the actual movement of troops, but also the talk, what Biden just talked about, personally sanctioning Putin? Does this move the needle? Do personal sanctions actually scare Putin?
Well, probably not. But if you put together everything the U.S. has done in the past few days, putting the troops on higher alert, talking more about some truly tough sanctions, solidarity with its allies, that shows Putin that his initial calculation of a weak and distracted United States was wrong. And his calculation that Europe was hopelessly divided, I think, is also wrong. Biden has returned the U.S. to its customary role of rallying the Western alliance. And I think Putin is a rational actor within his own frame of reference, and he's going to take this into account. I'm not saying it's going to be a good outcome, but it'd be a lot worse if the United States looked divided or paralyzed, and thank God we don't.
Now, looking at your personal expertise, if today you were doing your old job, I mean, leading the West's response to Russia's current aggression against Ukraine, I'm curious what you would do. What is the best way you would suggest to get a resolution here?
I would say keep doing what we're doing and mean it. That is, prepare tough sanctions, prepare to reinforce our allies, and I would do it faster. I'd get those troops moving, and I would send more weapons to Ukraine. I'm not saying American soldiers, President Biden is right to rule that out, but help the Ukrainians defend themselves and thereby convince Putin that if he goes in heavy, he's going to have to fight a real war, which is not popular with the Russian people. So mean it. Lean forward into this and keep the diplomacy track moving. Don't be afraid of talks. Right now, the Biden administration is preparing written responses to those rather aggressive, if not absurd, Russian initial proposals. Well, we should be serious about diplomacy. If Putin turns down diplomacy, that's his choice, but we shouldn't be the ones to turn it off. So that's what I would do. Press ahead with the sticks, press ahead with diplomacy, and rally the West.
Okay, Daniel Fried, fantastic to get your analysis. Thanks very much.